Hi, this is Matt from PC Game 10, and we're here in the Blizzard booth at Gamescom 2016. Going to chat about Overwatch with Aaron Keller. Hello.
Hi, how you doing?
Not too bad, thank you. So Overwatch obviously is this brand new sort of IP, massive kind of new universe to introduce players to. We've had like the Bastion cinematic, and we've had numerous cinematics throughout the period that the game has been showing its story. I was just wondering, how does it feel to create a universe when you don't actually have a narrative gameplay?
Yeah, well, it's a bit of a challenge. And early on in the development of the game, we realized that being the type of game that we are, it's a competitive first-person shooter, and it's really fast-paced. That we would only have a small amount of room to actually build story into it, and we weren't willing to make any sort of design compromises in order to get more story into the map. Blizzard's philosophy is gameplay first. And so, even though you have two heroes like Winston and Tracer who are best friends, they can still fight together in a match, and that is part of what makes Overwatch so special. Is this huge roster of characters and heroes that you can pick from to fight? So we quickly started looking for ways to tell the story outside of the game. And you mentioned the Last Bastion animated short that we just released, and that's what we started coming to was things like that. We've released novels, we've released quite a few animated shorts, and we are also going to release a graphic novel. Now we do have a small amount of story we can tell in game, so all the heroes have different emotes and voice lines that I think kind of really show their personality. And I think it's helped kind of players fall in love with some of the heroes. And then the maps themselves, we have a lot of different story elements in there. And what we are trying to do with the game is to just hint at a much larger world that exists outside of it. And then we use these other forms of media to start telling the story that we've already hinted at.
And are there any sort of opportunities that you perhaps like to explore? Different, obviously, we've seen graphic novels and shorts. Are there any other mediums that you perhaps like to expand out into?
We're discussing things internally, but there's really nothing that I can comment on as far as concrete details go right now.
Okay. So one of the other sort of elements that we've seen, which also is expanding, I guess, the lore and also hinting about what's coming forward, is ARGs. Obviously, we're looking at kind of Sombra at the moment.
Hmm.
Is there anything that you can tell us about like how that ARG is going?
Well, it's really difficult to say because it's so mysterious, and there's really nothing that I or anybody else can do to control Sombra. She's her own person, so yeah, I can't say.
Mm-hmm. This is obviously the first time for like you've tried like ARG sort of thing. Is it a difficult like game to create? Obviously, it's not the same as producing a video game.
Yeah, actually, that's true, and it could be. The ARG is actually so secretive that I don't even know what it is myself. It's like CIA level material, so I couldn't really comment on it.
Right. So season one kind of all going fine, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
We've already sort of like been told like what to expect from season two in terms of like the level progression, so like taking that. Just thinking, how have you felt about what you've seen so far as competitive, and where would you like to see it go next?
That's a great question. I've actually been really excited over the response for season one, and the community involvement with Overwatch has been phenomenal so far. They let us know what they like, and they let us know what they don't like, and I think that the team in general, the Overwatch team, has been really responsive to their feedback, and a lot of what we're doing in season two is in direct response to it. It being kind of arbitrary skill rating and not knowing how good you are. So the tier system is a direct response to that. So I feel good about it. Season two has a lot of changes in store, and I think that what I'm most looking forward to is to see the competitive scene grow and to see as people start filling in the top 500, and then watching that as it kind of feeds into the actual pro level scene. I feel like that top 500 component can be a lot of pros and people on their ways to being to playing the game at a professional level. And I kind of like to see that progression of people up through there.
Great. In terms of reaction, we've seen quite sort of fast reactions to characters that obviously haven't been working quite well, nerfs and bugs, and they've come very, very quickly. Is the plan to sort of like maintain that very swift changes when things go wrong, or is maybe the idea to slow down and work on perhaps a season by season basis?
We would prefer to make changes to heroes as soon as we realize that there's a problem with the hero. The Overwatch team, we're incredibly passionate about the game, not just as developers but as players. We all go home and play. If there's an issue with one of the heroes where we think they're either overpowered or underpowered, we want those fixed for the health of the game, and we want those fixed for our own selfish gameplay experiences. So yeah, when we see it, we're going to fix it. And I think we've been on top of it. We'll probably not do massive changes all at one time. We like to take. I know they've been frequent, but we like to take a measured approach to see what our changes actually, how much of an effect they have in game. But they will continue to be frequent until the game is perfectly balanced, which will be never probably.
Could you sort of like tell us about the World Cup and where that idea came from?
Yeah, so we have an embedded esports team on Overwatch, and we have a great director of the team, Nate Nanzer. And a lot of the people on the team are really big sports fans. And one of the exciting things that several different sports, including football, has is this World Cup idea where players can kind of play with um, or they can use their imagination and fantasize over what a completely different team would look like. And when you shuffle everybody according to the country, you start getting these really cool matchups, and it's different than what you've been expecting. And so that's a lot of what's driving the World Cup idea, is to see kind of like what all these different teams could happen. And there's also just something about um, playing for your nation and having national pride invested in it. It starts splitting up the fan base in different ways than it was previously, and we think that's exciting as well.
Yeah.
Mm.
In terms of kind of like Overwatch's future as an esport, how well do you think things are looking for that?
It's actually been really cool since the launch of the game, and actually even before the launch of the game in beta, there were high level tournaments being broadcast almost every day. And it's continued, and it hasn't just continued, but it feels like it keeps growing. And so that's why we started these big tournaments. And I think it can actually turn into something much bigger than it is right now. And we have big plans for Overwatch esports that hopefully we can share with people in the near future.
Brilliant. Obviously, we're seeing new heroes come in. We've already had Aaron, which sort of massively sort of changed the way that support could potentially be played.
Yeah.
I'm sure you know kind of like what you've got in mind for the heroes, but I was just wondering, so far, of watching player reactions and seeing how teams sort of work, is there a specific maybe role that you'd like to potentially fill at some point in the future?
Yeah, it's interesting that you asked the question that way, and you mentioned Ana, because when we shipped Overwatch, it had 21 heroes in it, and Ana was the 22nd. And we thought that there was a hole that needed to be filled, and Ana was the hero that we designed around it, and it was specifically about playing support in a different way. Typically, our support heroes, they're very accessible. Like Mercy doesn't require any aiming ability at all in order to heal members of her own team, and so we wanted to make a high skill support hero, and that's what Ana became. And it was almost like this is a hero that Widowmaker players could switch to, and it's such a different way of using that same ability of aiming with a scoped rifle, but using it for a different purpose. And so that, I think, for the foreseeable future, that's what our heroes will be. I think that there's still a lot of holes to fill in Overwatch, and so I can't obviously say exactly what we're working on, but there's new gameplay styles that we haven't touched yet. I think that there's a few new tanks that we haven't, a few new tank mechanics that we could probably put in the game that the game even needs sometimes, that we'd like to see. And on the other side of that is we actively work on, or we actively have several heroes in development right now, and we probably always will. So there's definitely more coming online. And as we've mentioned, as we develop and release new heroes, they will always be, or they'll be completely free. You know, they'll continue to be completely free.
And
Yeah.
you, of your perhaps favourite hero, you were talking about how Widowmaker, you could sort of like reuse her skills, say with Anna or something
Hmm.
like that. Do you have perhaps like a favourite skill set that you think would be really suited to a different style of play?
Oh, that's a great question, actually. Um, Man, I can't think of anything off the top of my head. It'd be a really great question for our lead hero designer, Jeff Goodman. Um, I personally really like. I'm kind of like a run and gun style, so I enjoy playing tracers or heroes like Tracer a lot. And it was interesting when Diva came in because she was a tank that almost had this high mobility. And I wonder what it would be like then to take that same sort of mindset and apply it to a support hero as well. That could be like a pretty interesting thing to do.
Um, Obviously, it's sort of like I believe it's still going on at the moment, but there's the Rio Olympics sort of theme that you've got for Overwatch. Is that sort of like seasonal themes based on sort of real world events? Is that something that you could see for the foreseeable future for Overwatch?
Yeah, so we recently released the Summer Games. It was our first event. It's still live. People can go out and play it if they haven't tried it. And we kind of wanted to see what players' reaction to it would be. It's our first one. We didn't know what the reception was going to be like, and since we have, it feels like it's been incredibly well received. There's been a lot of enthusiasm over it. So right now we're actively building and designing new events, and so um, they'll be coming. They'll be coming in the near future. I can't say what they are, but um, I think that there's a lot of space inside of Overwatch for these events and even new game modes and new brawls like what we have with Lucio Ball. And I think it'll be cool to tie some of them to real world events, some of them maybe to seasonal themes, and maybe there's even fictional things inside the Overwatch world itself that we could tie an event to.
Excellent. In terms of the way that the loot boxes work, reaction sort of like varies between negativity and feeling happy about that.
Yeah.
How have you personally felt about how the response has been?
We've been pretty happy with the response to loot boxes so far, um, and the weird thing for us is loot boxes were sort of an evolution of our business model for the game because it was about a year ago or less than a year ago we announced that this was going to be a boxed model game, and the reason we did that is it was kind of a game design decision because we wanted every hero to be available to every player in the game, and that's what we think the magic of Overwatch is to have all of this available to you. And this might seem unrelated, but early on in development, we had a lot of different ideas for progression in the game, and we wanted there to be some sort of progression system. Um, and we toyed with the idea there's going to be talents and or maybe even new abilities or something like that for different heroes, but it quickly detracted from the core um, gameplay of Overwatch. It's really fast paced. You always really need to know what another hero can do at any moment. And so once we started locking that in place, the loot boxes kind of became they kind of evolved from those two choices where we knew that we wanted to have some sort of reward for leveling up in the game, and we wanted that reward to be purely cosmetic because we never wanted to affect game balance with the progression. And so that's what happened with loot boxes, and I think that players have responded really positively to that idea. Especially because of the fact that there is no power progression in the game, and so I think players appreciate that we're trying to keep the core gameplay as pure as possible with the system.